I'm John Altshuler.
I'm Scott Bennett. We've known each other for almost 50 years.
We grew up together on the playground.
And now we're in the foreground and still growing up.
From the playground to the foreground.
Join the conversation. Well, episode 12.
Roger Staubach.
The Roger Staubach episode. I guess that's about the only positive thing we're going to say about the Cowboys today, John, but we won't get there yet. How was the weekend?
Great.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't have a TV downstairs.
Which
so
one?
I have to watch, what's this with my wife?
Oh, you're outside.
Outside by the fire. So we're this with the hood on, watching football all weekend.
Yeah.
Because we have a TV outside.
Yeah, I've seen that. Well, so you were sort of in the element with some of the teams yesterday.
Right.
Yeah, lots of cold weather football this weekend, which is fun. Yeah, good football, fun to watch. So I brought a couple things to talk to you about. First is, we'll just take football because we discussed it. And it isn't a secret to anybody that knows me, and certainly not you, my departure from the Cowboys. And you know, with every growing season that I've been away from the franchise, it's just beyond me. Like, when is the bottom? Where will the bottom ever be? Why will I ever see the bottom? Because as is the case, we know they're searching for a coach, and that's big news in Dallas right now. They didn't have a great season. They're moving on. But what's so ironic, John, is that two coordinators that they could have hired, potentially, are taking two separate teams in the same division as the Cowboys, NFC East foes, are now playing to go compete for the Super Bowl. Thoughts about it?
Just impressed with both. I mean, I like the Eagles.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm liking the Commanders suddenly. I mean, it's weird how the Cowboys slide is turning me into a broader NFL fan. I haven't gone to one franchise like you have, but I like all four of these.
It's so funny because that I didn't know you were going to go there with it, but I thought yesterday as I was watching with some friends, and I'm like, I am cheering for the Eagles, and I am cheering for the Commanders, and it's not even spite. I love Jaden Daniels. I love, Philadelphia's like, they're getting flack during the season for this style of football. They can play any style of football. Yeah. Just both coaches. I give credit, I suppose, in some lineage. Maybe they got some good learning here. I think they're good. The teams are exciting, but it makes me smile that potentially, and if it all works out, the Kansas City Chiefs, and I know there was a lot of hoopla about the calls, and I know that you love Tom Brady. I've heard everybody in the last 2 days. I've been getting an inflow of communication about that the NFL wants Mahomes, and I feel like, did they want it for Aikman when he was great?
I think it's really dumb.
Yeah,
really dumb. There's just no way to orchestrate some kind of preferred player team. You can't do that. Yeah, it's not happening.
You and I are the same.
Yeah,
we're
both smart.
Yeah, right. And is it the case? I think it's going to be exciting. I'm just hoping the Chiefs can get past Buffalo, who I think is outstanding. Everybody wants to see that game. So it's going to be a fun weekend next weekend. I know how we love our football, but I won't go further on the Cowboys. Don't know where they're going to go. Hearing all kinds of fun stuff about, are they going back to this former player?
It doesn't matter what they do. When two of your division rivals are in the NFC title game, next year's impossible.
Yeah. And the best part of the whole thing is that they got Steve Sarkisian an extension on his contract, and I'm very excited. Did you know that?
Didn't know that.
Yeah, he got a significant extension to his agreement because they went sniffing down there in Texas. He didn't want to leave. Wow. So that was fun. But anyway, I also wanted to share with you two items of show and tell. The first is, I'm really proud to tell you, I've only shared this with a few people, that on Friday before shooting this, I started writing a book. I'm authoring a book that will be completed this year. And this was sent to me by, I'm working with a woman who is helping me complete the book. Just an artifact of it. It's nothing, significant, except for that if I'm declaring it here, I'm making it known that I am going to be writing a book.
I don't like the leather.
Yeah, I'll give her that. But I thought she sent a really good package. She also sent me, which I didn't bring, I think I put it in my pocket.
I also don't like the pen.
Yeah. You think it's low? Yeah, it's not high quality. But she sent me this, which I thought was interesting. Do you know what that is?
Don't like it.
Yeah, do you know what it is?
It looks like a hassle.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. So that's
it's something else to keep track of.
It is a bookmark. So I know we talk about my reading, so I think this is going to inspire me to read more because now I have an official bookmark. So anyway, working with a wonderful person. I'll let her know your thoughts. I'm sure she's going to watch the podcast.
She's 0 for 3.
Yeah. I really like her.
0 for 3.
I really like her,
Solid.
so I hope you're wrong about
I still don't like the title of the book, so 0 for 4.
Yeah. Well, that's not the title of the book, but that is just more sentimental to me in our conversation.
Sure.
And then the last thing, I invited you on Friday to attend the 30th.
You invited me on Wednesday.
Well, right, to go to Friday, sorry.
I'm never available this week. I'm always available in 3 weeks.
Yes.
Always.
I wasn't available either. I had to move around for this. Just so we're clear. I've been wanting to go to this event. It will never happen again. You will come next year.
Well, give me like 3 weeks notice and I'll be there.
I didn't know either. I mean, the person
You
responsible.
said it happens every year.
Well, it does. I didn't put it on my calendar. I didn't know if I was going to be invited. I had to be invited. And I was invited to bring guests, and you were on my list. It
Thank you.
was an elite group, by the way.
I know. I understand how it unfolded. I like it.
A lot of our friends were there. You weren't. But I sent you some stuff, and I brought this. I knew I was going to bring this even before I got this. I didn't know what it was going to look like. But this is the program from the 33rd Annual Oratory Competition, the MLK Oratory Competition by Foley Lardner. They've been doing it for years. A friend of mine orchestrates that whole event. It's outstanding. And I could say a lot of things about the event, but we don't have a lot of time. And I just want to tell you that these were 4th and 5th grade students from DISD schools that participate. It started in the lunchroom of the law firm years ago with some associates and lawyers and a few kids. And now DISD has 20 schools participating, 100 entries, to which they pare down to 20 semifinalists and 8 that make it to the stage. It is a competition with judges. Our friend and last visitor to the podcast, Rolando Blackman, filled in because guess who didn't show up?
Cowboy.
A Dallas Cowboy. So Rolando, a Dallas Maverick, and we know what kind of guy he is, right?
But if I understand correctly, you invited him on Wednesday. He said, sure, I'll be there. He shows up Friday. Y'all realize there's a no-show. And then Rolando subs in?
No. He knew on Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
I actually knew. He said yes. And in the midst of this Wednesday, I said, Rolando's coming. And my friend is in a meeting and says, this particular cowboy can't make it. He's had Sent Marshall, Mike Singletary. So celebrity judges. There was other great people. Rand Stegan. There were some wonderful judges. But he was in kind of a pickle. Rolando had said yes and ended up stepping in. I don't think Rolando will not be there for any future competition. He loved it so much. He was really grateful. So podcast is doing good things, John.
Good. That's great.
Yeah, and Rolando had a fun time. But just quickly, and I think he may be a future guest if we this young man, Dion Harris, I mean, these children, each one of them, one would get up. It was like they were incredible speeches. They said it was the best. Each year it gets better, but this one was amazing. And Dion Harris was the winner, 4th grade boy from a magnet program.
Is he delivering his own remarks or memorized remarks from some others?
His own remarks. Okay. They teach them. You can see. You should watch the speech and some of the others. Now they've got really a formula. So besides him and the parents, there's 1,000 things I could say about this whole thing, how it's put together. Kudos to the parents of these children. Kudos to the law firm for understanding how important this is. Sure. My friend says it's his favorite thing he does all year. They work on it year round. But really, kudos to the DISD staff, teachers, administration, principals. These young kids are amazing. And it's like they're not 2-minute speeches. This kid's actually was over time. They have a time limit. They're judged on how they use nonverbal, the quality and content of the speech. Yeah. This speech blew me away. I mean, I was in tears, sobbing. And I know you're going to say, well,
you're in tears a lot.
Yes, I am. But really awesome. Awesome. And here's an excerpt from Dion Harris's award-winning speech.
Leaders should have a heart for humanity, a mindset to move people in a collective direction, and the ability to work together to accomplish shared goals. In one speech, Dr. King said, while integrity cannot be legislated, behavior can be regulated.
Kind of just one of those moments I won't forget in my life. So glad I'm alive to see something like that. And well done to all the children on this day. We happen to be on MLK Day, so we should take a minute about that. Dr. King was awesome. And these kids give me hope in the way that Dr. King gave the nation hope. Anyway, I'm excited about our guests today. I think you tipped off these guests way in advance before we even had a podcast. You were following these guys in the distance. So going to be a fun conversation. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Excited.
Yeah, me too. Would you like to be our guest?
Or is there someone you would like to see on the show?
DM us through social at Playground Foreground.
We look forward to hearing from you.
And we're back. And our guests today, John, are two outstanding young guys, Ben Stromberg and Jake Hoffman from Golf Roots.
Golfers.
Sir, it's good to be here.
Welcome.
Thank you guys for having us. Beautiful office you have here as well.
Thank you.
So listen, guys, it's a pleasure to have you here. John, I'm excited for this conversation. We spent a lot of time talking about golf, and I think these guys are doing something really fantastic in the industry. I'll let them give an introduction. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about Golf Roots and kind of a little bit about each of you?
Yeah, usually I feel like I do the intro, so Jake, I'll let you do it.
Oh, all right. Well, our mission is to make golf more affordable, more accessible. And we started Golf Roots about 4 years ago when we were both finishing up college. Ben was very heavy into golf. I was not into golf at all, but kind of saw a cool business opportunity with it. And used some of my kind of computer science skills from school and then helped build a very basic website. And even from the start, though, we were very mission driven. We were selling through Facebook Marketplace, selling through eBay, just trying to make it so that you didn't have to grow up on a country club or in a private golf course to actually, be a golfer and get into the game. So, that was kind of the origin story. And, we're fortunate to have grown now. We have a great team of 15 or 16 employees, and just really try to stay true to that mission of making golf more accessible, kind of in everything we do.
Yeah, and if you want the more concise version of that, our whole mission is to make the game more accessible, and we do that by selling affordable pre-owned clubs and full sets of clubs online. And we partner with private clubs around the country to acquire that inventory, helping them and their members get rid of stuff that they don't want anymore, and then turning that into the growth of the game on the back end.
So you took up golf how long ago?
Seriously, I took it up after the Masters in 2022.
2022.
Yeah.
And just for these guys, what did you do for your first set of clubs?
I was using a set of clubs that Mike Silliman had given me from a golf big party he had or big tournament he participated in 2008. He had an extra set and said, "Hey, do you want them?" I was like, sure, I took them. So I've been playing those 2 or 3 times a year since 2008.
Do you remember what those were?
They were some kind of fancy Callaway club.
Nice.
They were nice clubs, good bag, heavy. And then when I started taking lessons and getting serious, I went to the PGA store out there in Frisco, bought a set. Then I joined a club. The club said, "Hey, these clubs are no good. You need Titleist clubs." So I got these clubs.
Yeah.
And they had me get 2 sets of those clubs. So that's my story.
I'm curious, what about the 2022 Masters made you decide you wanted to really
I was
get
at those
into golf?
Masters also.
Yeah, he was.
I was not into golf, but I went to the Masters.
Yeah.
I had a cousin who worked out there. So
I got
So that was
invited.
the Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah,
right?
his first one.
Yeah.
I've been there for both of his wins. So I got invited by Craig Kessler. He had Dale Petrosky's tickets, 8 tickets, lodging for 3 nights, 2 practice rounds, one round at Sage Valley.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm playing this elite course. I'm telling Craig, "Hey, put me in the group that's the least serious about golf. I don't want to mess up their time." Playing with a caddy and just realizing, man, I'm here with these really talented people from Dallas. They're into the game of golf. I'm kind of half-assing it, playing, and I'm not doing so well. I think that a thesis I should advance is if I get good at the game of golf or take it seriously and become proficient at it, I can deepen existing relationships that I have and broaden relationships in the market, in the city. And that thesis has proven to be the case.
Yeah, no, that's the power of golf. Really, that's kind of why it was so important for me from the start. I wanted to make the game more accessible. Even before Jake came on board, was because I saw the relationships that I was able to develop through golf, having worked at a course and played for a few years at that point. And it made me sad to see that other people didn't have access to that because they didn't feel like they could approach the game, right? Because at the end of the day, golf is expensive, but if you find the right resources, it's not prohibitively expensive. The real problem is that there's a lot of stigma behind the game that prevents people from getting into it, and it's hard to find those proper resources. And at this point, that's where we fit into the market, and that's really what we're all about, is just breaking down all those barriers to entry so that people can actually have that experience and have that networking opportunity that they may not have otherwise had.
And I know, so I grew up playing the game as well. I played high school golf. And on this podcast, we talk a lot about me being selected out. And the good thing for me was I really wasn't good at traditional sports, to be honest. I mean, I tried and was accepted socially as a young guy. But golf was in my family. And I think, Ben, you and I share a similar story about how we were introduced to the game by our grandfathers.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. But I found the game to be fascinating, but clubs were back then, custom clubs were a thing. I had to get them made for a kid. It was pretty hard to find clubs for a kid even that were the right weight and size. Now that would never be the issue. And Jake, I know you are picking up the game, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of fun, right? Like all of us could probably talk about what the game has meant for us in different seasons of our time and iterations of our learning of the game.
What's your index?
Oh man, I'm probably about a 20 handicap right now.
Wait, probably.
Yeah, so we don't play enough rounds of golf a year right now to keep an index, unfortunately. I feel like at this point, especially for me, like I used to be a 2.1, and so my index has gotten worse and worse and worse, but I don't even get like the 20 rounds in.
You don't have to have 20 rounds.
What is it now?
What's the top 8?
It's 8.
Oh,
it's the best
so
8
back when I was in college, it was okay. That's right.
Yeah.
So we don't really play because sometimes we go and we play for like business stuff. We do like scrambles or we're shooting content or like things like that. It's like, man, we're gonna go play in Mexico next month, and so we'll add those to it.
I think it's just 3 recorded rounds, and they'll estimate your index.
Yeah.
In Gen.
Oh, there we go.
My estimate is probably right around. I'd say I really started taking it seriously about a year ago. And
lessons and everything.
Yeah, so kind of similar to what you described with lessons. Fortunately, I was able to get clubs for a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
But yeah, and frankly, since then, my best friends outside of work and everything are guys that I started golfing with. We both kind of started from zero and were pretty bad together and have slowly gotten better together. And so it's been, what you talked about with relationships, it's been phenomenal for that, socially and business-wise.
So I can see an opportunity for the 4 of us, by the way, because I'm a man of opportunity, that hopefully if this conversation goes well, we can get around. I think this qualifies as a foursome.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We'll decide, what that round's going to look like, where it's going to be, but we should make that happen.
I'd love to.
That would be a lot of fun, don't you think?
I want to walk.
Yeah, well, I'm walking too. We're walking.
I'm down.
John only walks. Yeah,
That's my favorite.
Yeah, so we're going to walk around, and I think it's going to be fun. And just quickly, I want to know about the model, and I think within the model, talk about what your competitive advantage is as it relates to pricing, and then more specifically, how you differentiate yourself among the masses of people doing the secondary club market.
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that one. So right now for new clubs, if you're to get fitted for new clubs, it can be anywhere from $3,000 on the low range for a full set up to around $7,000. It could even go higher depending on what shafts you select. Right now, the average for a new full set fitted is around, I think, $5,600. So for us, our full sets, which is really one of our differentiators, pre-built full sets, driver down to putter, range from $200 to $2,000 and everywhere in between. I don't even think we have any at $2,000. And the average, Jake, you can tell me, I think it's what, $600?
Yeah, probably $500-$600
for a full set. It's one of our big differentiators because think back to when you were starting 3 years ago. If you went on a website and you were of used clubs, right? Would you have any idea what to buy?
No.
None whatsoever, right? And so that was what we discovered early on, was that it's not intuitive. No one should know like what a driver, hybrid, none of these things make sense. And so we were building full sets for people, curating full sets from the start, and that has stayed with us to this day. So that's one of our big differentiators. It makes it really easy for you to buy. From a price standpoint, we have better prices than our competitors because we're able to acquire them in a very different and unique way. So, we acquire them from working with private courses like Prestonwood, your club, for example. We run these things called trade-in days where our team comes on site on a specific day, members bring their old clubs, they trade them in exchange for credit there at the pro shop with our team. We pay the club for that credit, so we offset that credit and then send them back to our headquarters here. So we do this all around the country. And we work with some of the best clubs in the United States, and we're able to tell the story of what we're doing in the back end, which allows us to acquire them for really fair prices at those events. And so people are really excited about knowing that we're able to put those towards newer golfers, who want to get into the game at a more affordable level. And so we have really, strong control over our acquisition prices, which allow us to compete and offer really affordable prices to customers.
I think the only other thing I'd add about the differentiator too is that, we really try to make the customer experience and even the customer service that kind of 7 out of 5 star is what we like to say. And, if you think about a Zappos or frankly Amazon and, some of these Warby Parker, some of these direct to consumer companies for industries and areas that aren't traditionally direct to consumer. We thought that we could do that and do it better and leave people with that great experience so that we don't just have better prices, but we also leave people, wanting to come back.
So I want to zero in on something. You mentioned, Ben, the clubs really like it and it makes them feel a sentiment about what, the value is the value on a secondary market. You use software that's out there to know the value of the club. Mm-hmm. And I've clearly gone through some clubs. So I get that, but I think it's important because it was my first thing. And then I think I asked Jake about this when I met him. Isn't it, quite frankly, if I know I'm giving my clubs away and I'm going to sell them and they have a value, I'm going to be happy that they are going for someone. For example, I had my first experience with your brand with my little brother. A lot of people know I'm a big brother. I'm really proud of that. He is not someone who has played a lot of sports. When we first met, our first conversation, I said, what if you could hit a golf ball 100 yards? And he said, that would be really cool. And so we tried to set clubs on our first time at the driving range, and he liked the game. Because if he didn't like the game, all bets were off.
Right.
But he kept asking, I want to go do this again. And then we came out and got a set. So I went through the experience, which, by the way, blown away by your facility. I could see the operation. I just went in on a day that was probably a little bit of a difficult day, but just see how you guys are beginning to set up the employees. It was pretty busy. But I guess my question is, it has to be front and center for the guys selling what you're doing, because they can go buy anywhere else, but they should feel better, right? About I'd rather buy from my club, know that these...
Yes, that's so true. I tell this story a lot. We did one of these events at Riviera Country Club, and you should have seen the names on the list of the members trading in clubs. I mean, my favorite one was Larry David trading in $400 of old junk sitting in his locker, right? He doesn't necessarily need $400 to be able to rationalize buying new clubs, but getting rid of that stuff sitting in there and being able to support his club while also supporting a game that he loves, that makes people feel really good. And so it's not like we're just taking clubs from them. They're not getting anything for it. They're still getting something for it too.
Right.
But they feel so great about knowing what's happening on the back end. And for us, that's why social media is so big as part of one of the reasons is that people can see kind of what we're all about. Not just in terms of how we acquire this stuff, but what we do. And we put our money where our mouth is when it comes to education and providing more information about the equipment too.
So a question as it relates to the 7 out of 5 stars. So if I buy a set of clubs, I'm convinced the 7 iron's broke. What do I do?
You send it back to us, or you reach out to us, and we will either return it, replace it, or refund it. Obviously, if you hit a ball off the cart path and you break the head, then it's a different situation. But I mean, this happens all the time, as you might imagine, with shipping. We get broken clubs, dented clubs. I think there was one time where somebody bought a Stealth driver and we sent them 3 because the first one broke, the second one broke, just as it happens with, UPS or whatever. And then we sent them a third one and they were happy. But, that's the type of thing where we're clearly not making money on a transaction like that, but we want people to leave with a good taste in their mouth and, be happy.
I think the key is that our team feels really empowered to make decisions.
I want to be clear. I don't want to send it back. I don't want to have to go figure out how to box it.
You just want to
send it back. You guys got to get me a 7 iron.
Right.
It works.
No, absolutely. Yeah. Well, so if you break the 7 iron, we don't.
I didn't break it. It doesn't work right. It just broke. It doesn't work. It just broke.
So I think that for us, we want to make sure people are playing with the right clubs, right? And so, we have our VP of customer success, his name is Alec, is absolutely phenomenal. He will literally get on the phone with people, talk with them about their swing, see what their miss is, try to figure out what the actual problem may be so that he can address it with the replacement. I heard him on a call the other day. Someone had snapped their driver because I think he's like, so tell me about like, what do you feel like your swing path is? Or, what's your miss? And he was able to diagnose where they're hitting the ball, off the driver face and say, this is probably a better weighted driver for you with perimeter heel weighting that's going to promote more of a draw instead of that slice. And we're going to send this out to you and replace it. And I think that, having the ability to do that and make those decisions, I think is really big for us. And we're really lucky to have a fantastic team of people who do those things on a regular basis too.
And it wasn't always that way. I mean, you started, I think I read, picking up old golf clubs, putting them in the back of a truck and working out of your garage.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yes, my parents' garage, and my parents kept both of their cars in the garage the whole time too. So we really only had
to work around
the edges of the garage.
That's how you started the business.
That's how we started the business. And then I also had a bunch of, I was in the Corps of Cadets at Texas A&M, and so I lived.
Why?
I'm crazy. I don't know. Truthfully, I wanted to be in the Army. That was really all I wanted to do going into college. I got medically disqualified after the end of my freshman year, but
from the Corps of Cadets?
From the Army.
Okay.
So I wanted to stay in the Corps for all 4 years and really get that full experience. And I loved it. But senior year, still living in the dorm, and one of the freshmen had quit, so his room was wide open. So I used that as one of the storage rooms for golf routes. I'd go and drive. Jake was in St. Louis. I was in College Station, but I'd drive to Houston, San Antonio, and Austin and buy all these lost and found collections from these courses, bring them back, and then ship them from that dorm room in
What, are y'all
College
boyhood
Station.
buddies?
Sorry?
How do y'all know each other?
So, Jake, you want to tell that story?
Yeah, I think we've played soccer together since about second grade, I want to say. Ben's dad.
It was before that.
Did y'all go to Lamplighter?
I went to Lamplighter.
Oh, gosh.
Ben's dad was our coach, so, and then we'd practice on our own even through high school together.
Were you public school?
No, I went to a small school called Levine Academy, Jewish day school.
Okay.
And then went to Green Hill with Ben together for high school.
Do y'all know Coach Card?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Herman Card. Yeah, he was my my middle school PE teacher.
Did you ever have to chant good, better, best?
Yes.
You remember how it goes?
Did you go to St. Mark's, or how did you
Do you remember how it goes? Good, better, best. Never, never rest. Till your good's better, your better's best.
He was great.
He's one of the most influential men in my life.
I would get in trouble all the time in fifth grade. My parents didn't realize I had ADHD until sixth, and so Coach Card had to deal with unmedicated Benjamin for a whole year. And man, I was in his office after PE almost every day because I'd do something.
Well, Ben,
He's intense.
Ben, John's had to deal with unmedicated Scott for 47 years, and we're still friends.
There you go,
right? It's okay.
To learn more about Golf Roots and founders Ben Stromberg and Jake Hoffman, check out their Instagram page at golf.roots.
So I mentioned, my little brother who would have never had access, and I'm so thrilled about his golf clubs. We're going to have a lot of fun doing that over the next many years, learning golf together. He'll probably be way better than me. But is there kind of, when you think about youth programs, the broader city, and you talked about the mission, how are you involving that? I have to think there's still places we're not reaching people that would love to get this game, and you're perfect for that. So talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, right off the bat, there are a few really good programs, and we recognize this early on, that address the need amongst youth on course, right? So there's First Tee, there's the I Am a Golfer Foundation over at Cedar Crest. Keaton Park has a great program too. But we also realize that as great as those programs are, there's a whole group of people that are missed by these youth programs, right? So, someone goes to their first generation college student, right? And no one in their family's ever played golf. No one in their family was ever asked to go play golf in a business setting. And so they never picked up the game. They never even thought about doing these youth programs. They get out of school and suddenly they're in a job where everyone plays golf but them. And that was really one of the big problems we wanted to address. We didn't want that to be the cost of equipment to be the reason why they aren't able to play. And so, that's really what we try to address on the adult side is helping the people that are missed from these youth programs. Now, for kids, we give away all of our kids clubs for free because we get a lot of them from these trading events. And for us, we've always felt like kids clubs should be free, because how else are you going to get people into the game if you can't get them as children to get started? And so in Dallas, we give all of our kids clubs away for free. You just walk into our warehouse. We've got racks and they just take whatever they want.
And by the way, awesome stuff. I mean, my little brother is, I think he was like looking at them. I think he was a little like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
He was excited, and then we walked out, we talked about a bag, and we there's a lot. And so we were looking for a bag, and he didn't even get out of the parking lot, and I had a text from him. He was already looking for a bag. He was so excited. See, that's true.
Yeah, it's amazing.
He's so excited. We haven't gotten bag yet, but we will. We just haven't done that. So just one last thing. You guys mentioned about starting in the dorm room. You know, there's another famous business in the state. Anybody want to guess that started out of a dorm room? You might be right.
Dell.
Who is that?
Michael Dell.
You're correct. Michael Dell started Dell Computer out of a dorm room. So I think that's a pretty aspirational thing for you, Ben, you guys, Ben, that you put in clubs, and he could talk. Supposedly, and I know this because my sister was in college around the same time, and he lived in the same dorm that I lived in because I went to UT. We won't get into the Aggie thing. I left that alone for today. But he was doing the same thing, buying computer parts and pieces, building computers in his room. He'd get shipments in, and there wasn't the shipping logistics system. So pretty awesome to think of. You started there, then
very kind comparison.
And you matriculated to the garage of your parents. That's awesome.
We were in the garage for quite a while too.
Yeah,
like almost like a year and a half for sure in my parents' garage.
And how many employees today?
16.
16?
Plus,
Okay, 16.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah,
amazing. So awesome. Well, we're going to get into something that we like to do here. Topics from the hat.
It's a golf hat too.
Yeah, it is. It's an Alton Co hat. We are proudly sponsored by Alton Co, and this is where we sit. We love being here. You should check the hat out later, but I'm going to let each of you pick a topic, and we're going to talk about it for a little minute.
That sounds
pick one.
Great. Awesome.
And then
Jake is first.
Go
ahead.
Some private education.
Private education.
Okay.
What do you think about private education?
I'm fortunate to have had private education. I went to Jewish day school growing up, and then Ben and I met in high school.
We went to Green Hill
we didn't meet in high school, but we went to high school together at a private school, and I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us. I think especially here in Texas, unfortunately, where the public schools aren't amazing, especially in the area that I grew up.
And then your feelings about it.
Yeah, I think that like Jake said, we were very lucky to have gone to private school, the school we went to. I think it really, Green Hill is such a great school because it taught a lot about critical thinking, really strong reading and writing skills. So when we went to college, I felt like we were really well prepared. My mom's a teacher at Green Hill as well, and I actually coach soccer there now just for fun. But I think that, I'd love for our public school system to be better, and not to take this conversation a whole nother direction, but one of my thoughts as I've gone through this business has been, I don't understand why more schools do not teach more about accounting and marketing and just basic, business education. It just doesn't make sense to me. Or actually, it kind of does, right? It seems like there's a system that's set up to not educate people properly, so that you always have some people who are working for those who know more. And it just seems wrong to me. And I would love to see that changed within the school systems to allow people to learn more about personal finance, and also to be able to continue I think that's what makes America great, are entrepreneurs. And so if we can continue to establish that and build that, I think that would continue to improve this country as a whole. So I'd love that to change in the public school system.
What do you think?
Well,
because they come in here and tell me they're private school guys, and I'm like, you're soft. I said, are you lamplighter?
That's
because when we played lamplighter in soccer, I was like, oh gosh, here we go.
Yeah,
we're wasting our time.
Yes.
They can't keep up.
Yeah.
Now we were
always
we
9-0.
We played soccer.
I doubt it.
We were
I doubt it.
Well, you're sitting across the
For
table
private
from
school guys.
we're proud public school guys over here. So I thought, I knew that was going to happen. Listen, I have a lot of friends that have gone to the school that you went to, and we talk a lot in this podcast about education. My general thoughts are you're right. You're appreciative for the means to be able to go get educated in that environment and the critical thinking. But at the end of the day, I just think we could do better for our public school system by leaning in. And so that mention about Hillcrest is I am seeing a movement, albeit small, John, for some people to say enough is enough. I want my tax dollars to go to work. And the best way to do that is to take an interest in my own school, be a leader in my own school along in a partnership with the educators to drive it forward. And if we did more of that, instead of, the rich get richer and put their kids here and separate and segment them, maybe.
I guess the real question is how much impact can one family or a couple of families make? And I guess there's a tragedy of the commons question here too, is that if someone's like, I guess if I'm the only one who's doing this, I'm not going to be able to make an impact. They might as well not do it at all, right? And so
it just takes one, Ben. It just takes one, because guess what? How many guys did it take to make a business? You were one. You started with one, and now you got 15.
That's a great point.
Calm down. Calm down.
All right, next topic. All right, Ben, you pick.
All right, let's see. I hope it's controversial.
It always is, Ben, here. It always is.
Grandfather. Okay, this is a great one. I love that.
So talk about grandfather.
Okay, so my grandfather, first of all, I had two amazing grandfathers, but my grandfather, Stuart Brand, who you know his son, Jeff, and he really got me into the game. So when I was maybe 4, he and I started to go to Marty Sanchez out in Santa Fe, the driving range out there, and we'd hit balls, and we'd go to what, before it was Top Golf, I can't remember the name, it's just
Scotty's Golf Park.
Yes, the one off Park Lane. Yep. He would take me there after school all the time. And we'd go to the Hank Haney one over, I think it felt like it was by SMU.
It's down
West
here.
Village.
Yes, okay.
I live there now.
And really? Okay, great. So we'd go there and I would go hit balls with them. We had a great time. And I did it until I was about 7 years old. And, I just was so impatient, and soccer was all I wanted to do, that I dropped golf altogether. And so my grandfather and I had a fantastic relationship. Golf was really important to him after he retired, and he had Parkinson's, and so he started having to draw back away from the game. And during my senior year of high school, I decided that I really wanted to get into it. And I wanted to be able to share that experience of getting into golf with him while he was still around. And so I got these hand-me-down clubs from him. So I was playing these Ping G5 senior flex clubs, like from 2005 or whenever. All my grandpa's hand-me-downs. I'd go to the driving range. I'd come back. I'd tell him about it. Show him my swing videos. Tried out for the Green Hill team. I barely made it, and I think it was really special for me to share that with him, and for him to see my progression from a horrible golfer to a slightly less bad golfer, and then eventually a fairly solid one. But what I realized later after he passed away was just how lucky I had been. One, of course, for the relationship that he and I had, but also for the opportunity to have clubs and have someone guiding me through the game, someone who knew about the rules, knew about the etiquette, and had the equipment for me to take on. And so when we started this business, it was really important for us to position ourselves as that resource, that grandfather, mother, girlfriend, boy, whatever it is that allows someone to get into the game, that welcomes them, that holds their hand into the game. That was really important for us. And so I think about my grandpa all the time. That's who we want to be in the golf industry.
After your grandfather passed away, I was at an event that happened at his house. It was a gathering that we all were there, like 150 people or so.
I was there too.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a really special guy and had a huge impact on the community here in Dallas.
I know him as well, but I also learned the game from my grandfather similarly. So when I read your story, it resonated with me. My grandfather taught me the game. I followed him and 3 of his buddies. There were no young people allowed to play golf. I mean, it's all those years ago. You couldn't play until after a certain time.
Yeah.
My grandfather would pick me up on Saturdays. I would watch him and his friends play golf. And I think it's really special.
Right.
I attribute my love of the game to him. And it's really an important word to me, which is legacy. It's a legacy, your grandfather, and it's a game that it's a gentleman's game, right?
Right,
So,
absolutely.
and it's
you
just
learn a lot of things from that, and seeing
so many things.
Your grandfather doing it as well. Like you don't get too mad when you miss a putt, right? All those things. And I think one thing that was really special was that When he was really sick, I would go, when I was in Santa Fe, he couldn't really go out much anymore, but I would go play golf with his old golf buddies. And we'd go to have lunch together afterwards. They're all in their 70s and 80s, and I'd go grab grandpa from the house and bring him to lunch. And I think, being able to, golf is so cool because it just it just connects generations, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not going to go play soccer with an 80-year-old, right? There's a whole different experience you can have, a shared experience. That's so special about golf, and it is a shame that not everyone thinks that they're welcome in this game. That's what we want to change.
Jake, do you know your granddad?
Yeah, I do. I have two wonderful grandfathers. One of them passed away about 2 years ago now, but neither were golfers, so a little differently than Scott and Ben. But what Ben just talked about with the kind of shared experience is what I really thought of when I saw that piece of paper. I think so many people play with their dad, play with their grandfather, and I can watch football with my grandfather. That's great, except he's an Eagles fan, sadly. So he's happy right now, though. But I can't really go out and play football, to Ben's point, or play soccer. Yeah. And so the fact that you can ride in a cart together or walk and have that shared experience, I think, is really special.
Well, another tangent there is I think you have too, but I go and play golf with professional soccer players I've become friends with through golf. That is a crazy thing to me that again, I can never go play soccer with these guys.
Right,
that just does not work. But there's a level playing field of getting to enjoy something competitive with each other and and be doing some sort of sport. That's really neat and a cool experience to have.
All right, last topic. All right, Jake.
Back to me.
See, Jake, what you got?
Entrepreneurship.
Okay, it's a broad one.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to take this one because I think what you guys are doing, is a model for entrepreneurship. And John, John was an entrepreneur, started this business. So I just curious, what would you say first to just these guys? I mean, you tipped me off to it. You were intrigued by their business when you read about it. Just what comes to mind when you think about entrepreneurship today?
Well, I'm impressed that it sounds like y'all haven't had a job working for anybody else.
We actually both did. So we both started working right out of school, and we're running this on the side at the same time. And so that was a great learning experience too.
Maybe not 6 months or
what?
How long were you?
I was working at Aon doing commercial risk management consulting for 9 months. Yeah. Before I said enough's enough.
And I was at MasterCard doing kind of data science and consulting. So we both had some of that, and it was always funny because, they're bottom of the totem pole, and at Golf Roots, we're making all the decisions and taking the risks. And so it really was a great kind of contrast of those two environments.
You mentioned grandfathers. I never knew my grandfathers, but my business outlook's been shaped a lot by my dad. And he wrote me a letter when I was 22. And it was 5 pages, and it was mostly business and personal kind of bullets on, hey, here's things to think about. One of his themes was about having a business, starting a business. And he encouraged me, start your first business in your 20s. Mm-hmm. He's like, don't worry if it's successful. You can't have a successful start without a start. Mm-hmm. And he thought that if you had the habit of starting businesses, eventually you could start a business that was successful. And so in my instance, I didn't start Alt Shore & Company until I was 37, but I started it. And it's worked out. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just admiring the path that you're on, the steps that you're taking, the adjustments that you make, and just the belief in self that it takes to make it all happen.
I appreciate that. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What's been the hardest lesson that you've had to learn, or maybe a lesson that you've had to unlearn in your time as an entrepreneur?
I think one of the hard things is that there's really no one there to give you a review. Mm. You're kind of getting perhaps reviews from customers, or you're having to really be thoughtful about how you get your feedback and the adjustments that you make. That was one thing that I learned really quickly was, wow, I mean, it's kind of up to me to make this work. Yeah. That's one. What else do you think about? What have you learned?
Yeah,
already?
I think that, really the hardest thing I've had to learn has been to let stuff go, that you can't be right every single time. Jake's chuckling over there. He's like, I don't know if you've learned that, but
in the process of
yeah, right. I'm in the I think that's really difficult, and especially within your own business, allowing people to make some mistakes here and there is just so challenging.
Yeah.
But it's critical because then they have the confidence to make the right decisions at the same time. I think that's been one for me.
And you kind of have to do that to scale, right? I mean, if it's just you forever, it's really hard to scale a business like that.
I've also learned you just keep going.
Yeah.
Just one foot in front of the other, and it doesn't always work out, but you just keep going. And I feel like there's so many examples in life and in business where they just persisted. And because they persisted, they were successful.
Right.
I started a business also late. And I think Jake and I talked a little bit about this, and I can relate to what you're saying. But I think the fundamental thing in all of it, and why I asked about the number of people earlier, is because you're right. You can't do it all by yourself. And I think good decisions, probably your first great decision was going to a buddy who had complementary skills, right? When the time was right.
Right.
I mean, you had this vision, and he sort of shared that with me. Surrounding yourself with great people and understanding that you can't possibly know it all. That's, business is scaled through people.
Yeah.
And so I just was impressed when I came to your facility, and I realized that's not the business isn't about your real estate on Josie Lane. It's not about that storefront today. It's about the brand. I love your branding. I love how you guys are owning social media. Some of the steps that you're taking in the right place and time. You're picking the spots to make those choices, as John said. So I think, we've all had a little taste of entrepreneurship, and it's great. So,
and I think I was just gonna say, the people piece is so true now, and we have a great team, but it wasn't always true. And about a year or two in, probably closer to 2 years in, we kind of realized that we didn't love where the culture was going, and we didn't necessarily have the right processes and the right people set up to scale.
And it started with us
scale.
too.
Yeah.
We were not where we needed to be from a leadership perspective too, and so it took a lot of reflection and learning there. And
Have y'all read Shoe Dogs?
Yes, I love Shoe Dog.
I've been
That's one of my
recommending
favorite
it.
It's
books.
so great. I love when he expands to Los Angeles and he's up in Portland. He sends somebody down to Los Angeles and the guy's like writing letters. This is the 60s.
Yes.
It's not working out. It's not working out. He's not. And Knights is like, I'm just not going to respond to the guy.
Right.
So make him figure
He's
it
gonna
out.
figure it out. Yeah, I love that book.
Yeah.
And I read that while I was still working at Aon. I was listening to the audiobook while I was working. I was like, ooh, I need to just go all in here.
Yeah.
Do you guys have like a favorite book that's been really influential in your careers?
That book's great, but I think the one that's been most influential in my career is David Ogilvy's memoir. Fantastic. It's a marketing book. It's called Confessions of an Advertising Man.
Yep.
It's the same thing with you?
Really
yes,
good.
it's an
really
excellent
good.
book.
That one.
And actually, we've never talked about that, and he teases me about reading. It is, David Ogilvy was a force, but there's so many lessons in it, and I liked it because I was early in my career in advertising and marketing, so it's a great book. I normally we would. He's like, you didn't read it. I'm not gonna have to do a book report. Thanks, guys. But anyway, it has been such a pleasure to have you guys
Great
here.
to speak with you guys.
We have been following you in the distance. I think we're going to be following you more closely. I'm looking forward to the four of us getting together.
Right. That sounds great.
And wishing you guys continued success. And thanks for joining us on the playground.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks for having us.